morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Ryan Cato here with Hunter Thompson, Trevor McVeigh. You're listening, so you know this is the Backups Cast. We're a football podcast. We're here to talk about the shit that went down this week, uh, including but not limited to some coach talk, some injury talk, and as always, some backups of the week. Boys, how are you feeling?
I'm good, man.
Yeah.
Just hanging in there, just celebrating, because our trend, our Twitter hashtag finally happened.
Hashtag
But we'll
fire
talk to
Dan
that.
Quinn. We'll talk
Fire
about
Dan
that in
Quinn.
just a moment. We are also excited because the Atlanta Braves are actually doing something. I don't want to talk too much about it because I'm afraid they might disappoint me. But I was just watching them. They're looking great, taking a 2-0, almost a 2-0 series lead over the Dodgers at the time of recording. So I'm not too mad about that. They're the only thing I have to hang my hat on after this Falcons season. So the city of Atlanta's counting on them. I'll say that. But I think we're gonna get into some news. Trevor, I'd love if you brought us in, brother.
I think the biggest news of the week, as all NFL fans can agree on, is Dak Prescott broke and dislocated his ankle, and really unfortunate because it was he bet on himself this season, trying to get him a bigger payday for next season because Cowboys didn't want to pay him. So I mean, class act from Jason Garrett. As soon as he saw the injury, he ran out there and checked on him. Of course, that's his former head coach. And Andy Dalton came in, played decently.
I think Trevor's in and out, but yeah, if you saw the Cowboys Giants game, actually a nail biter. That was actually a pretty good game, but Dak's ankle was 180 degrees. I mean that shit was turned.
I've kind of like Marcus Lattimore's knee injury.
Yeah,
if anybody remembers that.
It was bad. But Andy Dalton, like you said, came in, played a pretty good game, brought it down to the end, and the Cowboys actually pulled that out, which just further proves to me that the Giants are one of the worst players in the NFL, I swear to God. But or some of the worst players in the NFL rather. But honestly, I think that one thing that we can talk about coming from this is do you think Andy Dalton might be a worthy fantasy pickup in light of the Dak injury? I mean, this has been a high-powered Dallas offense throughout the year, every single game. So maybe worth a shot. What do you think, Hunter?
Oh, dude, I would 100% be picking Andy Dalton up if you are having questionable quarterback play. Like, if you're one of those guys that, banked on, Carson Wentz. Yeah, no, I would be looking for a guy like Andy Dalton right now as a supplement to what you already have. I don't think he's going to be, an elite option. But if you're in the field of just rotating between quarterbacks each week, Dalton is a guy that you have to grab and have to consider.
Yeah, I mean, especially in that offense you have 3 fantasy viable wide receivers in that offense, at least for flex consideration, as well as a running back that's been pretty good and sometimes usable tight ends depending on the week. So I think Andy Dalton might be worth a consideration for sure if you're relying on someone like Carson Wentz, like he said, could be a good look. Also want to bring up after this week, like you said, our hashtag finally came through. The Falcons actually, I guess they must be following us on Twitter because hashtag fire Dan Quinn finally, it happened after a sorry loss to the Carolina Panthers this week.
Oh, it was bad. Everything just looked even worse than normal. Offense looked even more vanilla than normal. Defense was just constantly looking lost out there. That's the first time Arthur Blank has ever fired someone in a season, like in season before. And I guess that shows that he's taking this whole thing seriously, in the sense of going for the title and trying to win games. I don't think the Falcons have a shot to make the playoffs, but I think it's a good way to go ahead and set the tone that everyone is no one's immune to getting cut or fired right now.
Yeah, I mean, at least taking it seriously, not Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff, who was also fired, the GM, who was fired as well. Both great guys, big parts of the Falcons organization.
Very, very well respected around the league.
But when it comes down to it, Arthur Blank is finally treating it as a business, and I think that that's a winning mentality. I mean, that's sometimes what you got to do when it comes down to it in the NFL, and you start 0-5 like that, and not to mention the offense looked bad against the Carolina Panthers.
Yes.
So, you have to start making some changes somewhere. Much luck to Dan Quinn for sure from the Backups cast. We wish no harm on him. Hopefully he'll land on his feet somewhere. I have a feeling he will.
Yeah. One thing that was really interesting about the press conference that came out the day after letting Braves home run. After letting Dan Quinn go was the fact that Arthur Blank did not commit to Matt Ryan. And he said he was going to leave it up to the new coach and the new GM, which, depending on where Atlanta's picking, that could be a guy like Trevor Lawrence or Trey Lance or Justin Fields. There's no telling where they could go with the pick. So I just found that really interesting.
I think that's interesting too. That I think being open to a full rebuild is not a bad thing. But I mean, the three of us talked about in the group message a couple of days ago that it's not necessarily like a giant, especially offensive rebuild that needs necessarily to take place. I mean, you've got a quarterback who's of course aging, but I think definitely still usable. The receivers are good. It's really the defense that needs a rebuild. But I mean, if the Falcons pick at 1, you kind of have to go Trevor Lawrence, don't you?
So like you could argue, or I would not be for this. I know Trevor would not be for this, but you could argue trading that pick for a king's ransom that you're going to get for Trevor Lawrence if you like the idea of being able to use Matt Ryan. However, I'm in the sense of Atlanta's probably not going to be picking this badly again for a while. So I think we should go ahead and grab a younger quarterback. However, that's fully up to the coach and the GM to make that decision.
I mean, the trade down option always gives us the chance to take somebody like Trey Lance, like Justin Fields, that we've seen maybe not as strong as Trevor Lawrence, film wise and traits wise even, but still guys that I know we both like coming into this draft season. So it'll be interesting to see come April what the draft situations look like. Because the Falcons go 0-16. Maybe we'll have a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like the conversation will change entirely depending on the Falcons' final record, and who they hire as the head coaching candidate and GM. But
for sure, and I've seen quite a few names. I know you have some favorites. Eric Bieniemy, one of them that we've talked about before, definitely a head coaching candidate. I didn't know if you had any other guys that you really had your eye on for that Falcons job.
Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty much like the same names all the way around the league for all the head coaching candidacies. I like the idea of Eric Bieniemy in Atlanta. I think that just is a match made in heaven. A lot of people are linking Josh McDaniels with Atlanta. I don't like that one after what he did with Indianapolis when he screwed them like he did. Jim Caldwell is a name that I've heard linked a little bit after he got let go by Detroit. Brian Daboll,
Daboll,
yeah, Brian Daboll in Buffalo is a name that they've been linked with. Greg Roman is a name. What's his name? San Francisco's
Robert Saleh.
Robert Saleh, yeah.
Yeah.
All those guys are like big names that keep getting linked with every head coaching vacancy.
Sure.
So I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty much open with any of them except for Josh McDaniels.
Sure. I mean, and understandably so. You just got to look at a coach's past, see what's right for the team, and I'm hoping that Arthur Blank will do just that when it comes to next fall.
So he seems like he's starting to kind of step away from the football operations and letting it kind of be run as a business as opposed to more of a hobby, which is kind of how he was running it before.
Yeah, completely agree. And and we talked about Matt Ryan and the possibility of a young quarterback coming in. What I do want to talk about also is the backup quarterbacks. We are the Backups of Football podcast. We do love to talk about backups, and I want to talk about backup quarterbacks a little bit because there was a time, and in my game of the week, which we'll talk about in just a moment, Chargers Saints, there was a time in that game when I really thought Drew Brees was about to get replaced by Jameis Winston or by Sean Payton's favorite Taysom Hill, who we tend not to like on the show. I yell at the TV every time he comes on, but I think it'd be interesting to see a guy, the possibility of a guy like Jameis Winston or possibly even Jacoby Brissett in Indianapolis coming in over those veteran QBs. I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So after the Colts-Browns game, it's been pretty much a consensus that Philip Rivers has not been good this season. He hasn't. And I think at this point in time, with how wide open the division still is in the AFC South, I mean, granted, Tennessee is looking good in the Buffalo game, but it's still not out of reach yet for the Colts. So I think at this point you have to maybe try to change it up. Maybe go with a Jacob Eason or go with a Brissett who knows the offense. Is Brissett a better quarterback than Philip Rivers? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But at this point in time, you really do have to just change it up because Rivers is not working.
Yeah, I mean it's their. I want to see their record real quick. They've lost 2 games. Is that correct? After this last week to the Browns,
I think they're 2-3.
Let's see. Oh no, their only other loss was week 1 to the Jags.
Okay.
But yeah, so 3-2. But it's, I mean, honestly, at this point, quarterback wise, it's not the offense the way it's run. I mean, they're the way it's run, and I say that because I mean Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines to a degree are taking a brunt of the offensive work. It's not a heavy passing offense. But yeah, Jacoby Brissett coming in may be worth a change. But either way, you just need someone there to be running that offense. You know,
well, the thing with the Colts offense is you just really just don't turn the ball over. Is kind of like the thing, and Rivers has been doing that.
Control. Rivers
has
true.
always been a turnover machine throughout his career.
That's true. It's control the ball, time of possession, and let your defense do the work that it's been doing, and they have been doing through these first 5 games. I did mention Chargers Saints a minute ago, and I do want to talk about that. It's my game of the week. Monday Night Football last night at time of recording. We record these on Tuesday nights, but Chargers Saints, it started off not looking too hot for the Saints, down 20-3 at one point in the first half. Justin Herbert off to an excellent start, and the Chargers defense off to an excellent start, and it just really took a turn for the worse come the second half. The Chargers defense couldn't keep up. Justin Herbert did his job, looked very good, I thought. But just I mean, like I said, the defense just didn't get their job done. And I mean, I think I at least personally, I didn't see Justin Herbert as a starter right out of college, and he's definitely proved me wrong come these first 5 games, although he's 1-4. He's looked excellent through these first 4, and an overtime thriller, 30-27 Saints. But yeah, and I do want to note too, Herbert was missing a few of his options offensively. Eckler out currently with Justin Jackson and
Joshua Kelly, my boy.
Joshua Kelly, your boy. I knew you wouldn't forget his name. And Keenan Allen out as well. He was relying a lot on Mike Williams last night, who had a great game. By the way, before we continue, did you see that catch? I don't know if you saw it on Twitter. If you saw
the Keenan Allen one?
No,
the
Mike
Williams
one.
The one where he kind of reverse mossed over Marshawn Lattimore?
He reverse mossed him and he was laying down. I mean, he was
He
flat.
he literally went up in the air and just stayed.
It's
Like,
I don't know how that happens.
it's just
I
like
don't
gravity just didn't work for a minute there. And
I was very confused. He was floating. I mean,
yeah,
it was beautiful. But I think it was a 3-touchdown game last night for Herbert. So
no, Herbert had 4 touchdowns last night.
4 touchdowns. 4
Mhm.
touchdowns.
He had
So
one to Allen, 1 to Hunter Henry, and 2 to Mike Williams.
there you go. And still a loss. Like I said, the defense just didn't do its job. But that's for sure my game of the week. Looked very good last night on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, so you were talking earlier, like in the cast, about Drew Brees not looking good and potentially thinking that you'd see Jameis. Do you think after the start of Drew Brees' game last night that maybe, just maybe, we might see Jameis coming up pretty soon?
It was confusing because I had actually tweeted. I tweeted last night, like, are we going to see Winston soon? Like, because it was I mean, the Saints offense was looking neutered. I mean, no Mike Thomas, sure, but there's still good options for wide receiver and tight end on that offense, and Kamara is still there, and nothing was happening. And then I swear Drew Brees must have heard me, because he started throwing the ball like a maniac. I mean, it was these little West Coast routes. I mean, 7 yards max on every single one, but they were all to Emmanuel Sanders, and he drove straight down the field and ended the game like a Hall of Famer should. So, I mean, it's hard to say if he's replaceable. I think it'd be a different offense under Jameis Winston for sure.
I've said this before, and I will say it again. I think we would see a more complete offense under Jameis than we'd see under Drew Brees right now, just due to Brees' lack of ability to stretch the field. Brees is a much more efficient quarterback than Jameis is, and like there's no question about that. But I think eventually we're going to run into teams, especially when the Saints hit the playoffs, that key in on Kamara, key in on Thomas.
Sure.
And shut down the little 5-yard gains that they do. And the whole chipping away thing isn't going to work, and Brees can't push it downfield. If he goes to Lambeau in December, there's no way he's going to be able to air it out down there.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, it's tough to say. The Saints do have a bye next week coming up, so it might be a good time to scheme and rest. They have the Panthers right after that, so I think we'll see Brees for a little bit longer. But if he starts to struggle with some of these stronger teams later in the season, I wouldn't be surprised to see Jameis. I mean, they must have signed him for a reason, right? They had to have.
So there had to. You wouldn't waste that kind of money on Jameis.
Which
it wasn't much. But
yeah.
but you don't go sign Jameis when you have, or if you're sold on Taysom Hill, you do not go out and sign a quarterback like Jameis Winston if you are convinced Taysom Hill is your backup quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, the question is just like, what's the point if you're sold? So it'll be an interesting QB situation in New Orleans for the rest of the season. We'll have to see what it'll look like with Mike Thomas coming back as well. Might add a new dynamic to that offense, but not entirely sure what it'll look like in Week 7. I do want to hear about your game of the week, though, from this last week, and that was.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were about to keep going.
I wish I would know. I wish I knew.
No, my game of the week this week was the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. It was the first game in the non-Bill O'Brien era, and in the second coming of the Coach Romeo era. And it was interesting to see. Gardner Minshew looked good on the Jags end. He threw for 300 yards again and a couple touchdowns and still lost. But Deshaun, it was cool seeing Deshaun air it out consistently around to multiple targets and just watching him do what he was supposed to have done all season. That wasn't really happening. Brandon Cooks had 8 receptions for a touchdown. Will Fuller had a touchdown. Darren Fells had a touchdown. Randall Cobb had 6 receptions. It's just cool to see the things that they were supposed to be doing all season finally kind of start to come to fruition in this game. Them and Jacksonville are both 1-4 right now, and Houston I think is probably about to start heating up. But the thing with Jacksonville is Jacksonville came off to a hot start and have looked honestly kind of decent in most games. I'm not gonna say amazing, but they've looked fairly competitive, but they're just not really doing anything. Do you think maybe they could be in the market for a new head coach this offseason?
Yeah, that's one of those hard ones because we look at a team that's honestly on a rebuild. If you look at, the players they traded away, the players that they kind of let leave, they're starting an undrafted free agent as their running back. They, their top receiver now.
Do not draft shame your boy James Robinson.
I would never draft shame him. You know that I love him. You know that I've talked about him on this podcast before, I think in multiple episodes. But if you look at the tools that they're putting together to have a 1-4 record right now, it's not, they're not in any sort of win now mode. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, gotcha.
They're building this team back to maybe be that team that was competitive in the AFC Championship a couple years ago, but I think the big problem with this game against Houston, who Houston has looked terrible. Bill O'Brien, of course, gone, but 30-14 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. There was no rushing game. James Robinson only 13 carries for 48 yards. They kind of shut him down in this game, and the passing game wasn't too much better. Laviska Shenault had a big game, 7 receptions, but aside from that, it was all Houston all the time. So I don't know. It's definitely in rebuild mode. I wouldn't be ready to call for a new head coach yet. I'd want to see it for maybe a year or two out to see if they can bring this team kind of back. Without injuries, without a weird season like we got going on now. But it's for sure consideration.
Yeah, I get that. I know a few of the Jag fans we interact with on Twitter are very convinced in Minshew and very sold on the rebuild that they're starting. But
yeah,
it's starting to kind of get to the point where I'm not sure if they know what they're doing. But they also get paid. These execs get paid a lot more than we do.
Yeah, because our salary is 0, and I do want to say if anybody's interested in sponsoring the boys, we're just some guys. We like beer and we like football, and we like to talk about it. So if anybody wants to give us money, we wouldn't be mad at it. I think that's about the extent of what I have to say about that. I'd love to get paid though.
I would also love to get paid for this.
We are missing Trevor right now. So I think we'll just move forward with surprise of the week. If you're interested in that, we'll have Trevor figure his shit out on Twitter later. But surprise of the week, I do want to talk about. We talked about head coaches earlier, and I want to hear your thoughts on a certain head coach still having a job after this past week.
Yeah. Okay. So when we were trying to decide like surprises of the week and everything, I was pretty much torn between two. So I'm going to talk about both.
Okay.
But I'm going to start with the certain head coach still having a job. And that certain head coach is Adam Gase.
Damn.
How does this man still have a job? They're 0-5, have lost every game by more than 2 scores. They just cut their star running back. Well, I don't know if I'd say star, but they just cut a very expensive running back because him and Gase don't get along. They traded the face of their franchise in Jamal Adams because him and Gase didn't get along. There's a trend going here, and it's not the players. I mean, right. Well, that's why it might be the players to an extent, but the common denominator is Adam Gase. And it really comes down to, at this point in time, if you're going to cut and trade these players, or does that mean you're committing to Adam Gase? And if that's what you're trying to signal to the league, that you are committing to Adam Gase, which is not the move, why are you committing to Adam Gase? And what are you doing to help ensure Adam Gase is going to have a successful future? The Jets are not doing any of that. With Adams, yes, they got some good capital, but they could have gotten more, I think, because he'd been begging to get out of this town forever.
Yeah, it's absurd to me. I mean, offensive genius, my ass. Like, you guys saw in the group message, I was lighting into Adam Gase after that despicable 30-10 showing against the Cardinals. I mean, they looked absolutely terrible. I remember one particular play. It was a 2nd and 20. So you have 2nd and 20. It's not 2nd and 10. It's not 2nd and 7. It's 2nd and 20. And I watched Adam Gase run Frank Gore up the middle. I don't really understand what Adam Gase could possibly be doing with this team offensively, because nothing seems to be working. I mean, he's got some talent there. Last week he had Le'Veon, of course, not anymore. But Jamison Crowder, I talked about in the group also. Like, he's played 3 games this year and has 100 yards every single game. Like, he's looked good as a weapon for that Jets team. They've got a solid tackle in Mekhi Becton. The line, could be doing better. Sam Darnold looking shook after every single game isn't really helping. But I really don't understand anything that Adam Gase does on that team anymore. It's like he's not trying. Of course, Brashad Perriman out for a while. Denzel Mims hurt as well. But it's absolutely absurd. And if they're committing to Adam Gase, then they're going to be bad for a while.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, I don't understand any of the appeal that Gase brings. Because he's kind of shown, offensively speaking, he's not that good, especially compared to some of the other names on the market. He doesn't have a good locker room presence. Like, Dan Quinn, yes, Dan Quinn's results on the field were not that good. But one thing you could say about Dan Quinn is that Dan Quinn was well respected.
The players love Dan Quinn.
The
players love him.
I'll be honest, do I think Dan Quinn could end up on a young team, kind of like the Jets? Sure. Do I think his hoorah, go motivator thing that he does would work there? Yeah, 100%. But, like, I don't get how a coach that just got fired, even Bill O'Brien at this point, would be better than Gase. All these coaches that are already getting let go are better than the guy they have, and noticeably better. Because if you want to do the offensive genius thing, you can go with O'Brien. Even though he's a dick, he's he's good at his job. If you want a guy that's liked, go with Dan Quinn. He might not be the most good strategist as a coach, but he's likable and players will play hard for him. But like I said, you're not getting either of these things with Gase, and I don't get why you keep him.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is you can't be a dick and an idiot. And Gase is both. It's mind blowing to me that he still has a job later than Dan Quinn, later than Bill O'Brien, who both had plenty of reason to get fired. I can't understand it for much longer. And I with the Le'Veon releasing, I think it has to be soon, right? It has to be something soon, or else it's gonna be bad for the Jets. It's gonna be worse than any other job in the league. Nobody's gonna want it.
I mean, like, I don't get me wrong. I think the Jets would be a very appealing option if I were a GM candidate, because the concept of having a completely barren roster, save 2-3 players, really, is appealing if you want to try to bring in your own team. And I've said that before, and that's a statement I will say and stay with. But if you're any other candidate that's not me or someone who has the same mindset as me, there's nothing about this job that's entertaining or even tempting, really. So yeah. I don't get how you're going to be able to rebuild this organization without somebody at the helm who is good and who wants to be there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's gonna look like an expansion team the next couple of years. Honestly, is what I think, which is kind of sad to hear. But For the Jets' sake, I hope they rebuild. For the Bills' sake, I hope they eat shit. So, and that's that. The Jets talk is depressing me. It always fucking does. But I do want to talk about my surprise of the week real quick. Which I guess I'm not sure if it was necessarily a surprise, but something I definitely want to lay into was the Browns really caught their stride against the Indianapolis Colts this week. The Colts, highly touted as probably the best defense in the league right now. And the Browns, who have wins, they're a one-loss team still. They're 4-1, but I didn't expect them to go out there with the fervor that they did and win that game against that defense, putting up 32 points against the Colts with no Nick Chubb either.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed the game, and I do want to do you think it's possible that we get 3 playoff teams from the AFC North?
Yeah, dude, I think it's incredibly possible. The fact of the matter is, Steelers are undefeated, right? Yeah, Steelers are undefeated.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think Steelers are undefeated. Baltimore's 4-1,
Yeah.
and Cleveland is 4-1. I'll be honest. There's even if Cleveland ends up 10-6, they're sneaking as a wild card team. It's kind of like the same thing with the NFC West. We're looking at probably 3 NFC West playoff teams.
Yeah.
I think it's very possible. I don't know if I like that, but it's doable. I'm really happy to see the Browns doing well. Stefanski's looking like a good Coach of the Year candidate early on, because he easily just revived this program and brought in discipline and coaching that we haven't seen under Freddie Kitchens. Baker's looking like a solid starter. The weapons are looking good. OBJ is not quite looking like OBJ of old, but he's looking more like it than he has. Do I think they can win the division? No, hell no. That's Baltimore's.
Yeah,
that's probably Pittsburgh's division, honestly.
As of right now, I mean, with the way Lamar's looked the past couple games, hasn't looked top tier. But there's plenty of more season to play, so it'll be interesting to see how that division shakes out. But I really do think that there are 3 playoff teams in that division. Also, you mentioned Kevin Stefanski really turning this team around. I mean, 4-1. That really goes to show. And we've talked about coaching a shit ton. Excuse my language on this show, but we've talked about coaching every single week, and it really goes to show how much coaching actually means. I mean, Freddie Kitchens on that Cleveland team, not a single person respected him, and he was a dud on offense.
Mm-hmm.
But you come in and you have a kind of a turnaround, and maybe we're seeing something new for Cleveland. Maybe a new era for a team that's been stunted for a long time.
I was talking on Twitter earlier about the 2018 quarterback class: Rosen, Darnold, Baker, Lamar, and Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And how we had them, everyone was talking about how they had them ranked, et cetera, et cetera. And my rankings for it was I had Rosen 1, Darnold 2, Allen 3, Baker 4, Lamar 5.
Sure.
And obviously it was a bit of a miss, a bit of a miss on that one. But somebody responded with, and they're like, honestly, it doesn't really show that you missed. It goes to show how good coaching can affect all these players' development.
Yeah. I mean, you see Rosen, who never really got a chance, went to an Arizona team, got replaced pretty much immediately, went to Miami, had no chance there, obviously. And Darnold, same thing. Adam Gase has come and taken his career. So it is an interesting show and a show of how building an offense around a quarterback can really change, a perception of them. You look at Lamar Jackson, last pick in the draft to an MVP candidate. So, or not in the draft, in the round rather, to an MVP candidate. So, been very interesting with those 2018 QBs, And hopefully for a guy like Darnold, maybe we'll see Darnold go to like a Pittsburgh or maybe even in Indianapolis, and
I would love to see Darnold in one of those two places.
Yeah,
the man needs to be freed.
I think either of those places where he can be the quarterback that both of us know he is. I mean, we both watched his film, we both saw him in the draft, and hopefully he can come into himself. I mean, same goes for Rosen. Rosen had a tough tough first couple of years, but maybe we'll see some turnaround for him as well. We will get into backup of the week super soon, but we do want to take a quick break. We're just about 36 minutes, so we will be right back with you in just a few moments.
What's up, y'all? Ryan Cato here from the Backups Cast. Just wanted to give a couple reminders to subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Backups Cast, as well as follow us on Twitter individually and at the Backups Cast Twitter. We'll have the poll from this week for the backup of the week, like we always do. Also wanted to give a shout out to ISN Podcast Network and Brian Lamb. ISN Podcast Network is where the backups will be hosted for this season, so give him a follow on Twitter and check out his site, ISN Sports Network. But I've taken up enough of your time, so let's get right back into the action.
Welcome back, football fans. Ryan Cato here with Hunter Thompson. Trevor McVay has poor connection today, so he has dropped out of the call, unfortunately, but you'll see him on Twitter a little bit later. We do want to get straight into backups of the week, as we always do. We are the Backups of Backups. The Backups Cast, a football podcast, rather, and we do love talking about some clipboard holders, and I do want to talk about a clipboard holder that might just be comeback player of the year this year. For my backup of the week, Alex Smith. I swear to God, I thought he wasn't going to play football again. I really didn't. A gruesome leg injury in 2018, week 11, I believe it was. Absolutely destroyed his season. Didn't see him all of 2019. And Alex Smith stepped onto the field Sunday against well, I wish I knew. In the Washington game.
It was the Los Angeles Rams.
And against the Los Angeles Rams. Damn. I mean, it always goes like this, I go to boys' night, I have some beers, I come back, I can't remember anything. So against the Los Angeles Rams, Alex Smith stepped into the game to take over for Kyle Allen, who took over for Dwayne Haskins. But absolutely incredible that he was even able to step on the field, which is why he of the week. I mean, like, absolutely amazing to me that he even made it back into an NFL game. Truly.
Yeah. It's really awesome to see Alex Smith out there. He's a guy that I thought would never, play again. And again, I'm also in the same boat. He should never play again. But it's one of those things where it's like, I'm super excited to see him play and everything, but that also kind of poses the question of, what is Washington going to do at quarterback next year? We love talking coaches. We love talking quarterbacks here at the Backups. So, Cato, what do you think? Did I say this? The Washington football team. I almost said Redskins. What do we think the Washington football team is going to be doing with their former first-round pick, Dwayne Haskins?
I mean, hell if I know. They could ship him off easily. I think I'm not a big Dwayne Haskins fan, and we've talked about that before. I'm not, a big believer in him, but we've talked about places where, Darnold could land or quarterbacks like that, and maybe sitting behind an aging quarterback might do Dwayne Haskins some good in a stronger system than the rebuilding Washington football team. I mean, we look at the quarterback room, though. Kyle Allen has played with Ron Rivera before. So Ron Rivera knows him, favors him. but obviously doesn't favor him that much if he's willing to bench him for Alex Smith. There's also
Kyle Allen got hurt.
Oh, Kyle Allen, rather. Yes, got hurt. Yes.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but either way, I think it's interesting to see what that QB room may look like. I mean, is it even, is it out of the blue to even think that the Washington football team may look for a quarterback in the draft?
No, I mean, no. I don't think that's an unheard of question at all. I know they've been linked with Trey Lance a lot because of Trey Lance's similarities to Cam Newton, physical similarities to Cam Newton, and Ron Rivera, being the former coach of the Panthers and all that. A lot of people are like linking the two of them together. I don't know if I like that for the sake of Trey Lance. However, that would make sense. But for Haskins, though, I would love to see Haskins get shipped off too. Honestly, Atlanta, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, all these teams with aging quarterbacks where he can learn behind. Whether or not he actually ends up being the guy there, that's a question for another day down the road. But
sure.
I think it'd be good for him to sit behind a guy like any of those three teams.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think, all of those quarterbacks. I mean, yeah, all of those quarterbacks are veterans with plenty of years of experience, and also teams that aren't still in the rebuild process. So it's, Atlanta, we talked about, is a little bit up in the air, but offensively, still a strong team. So we could see a place like that. We talked about Darnold to Pittsburgh or Indianapolis as well. Are there any other quarterbacks you could see in that kind of situation when it comes to next season?
Like getting moved, kind of like Haskins, or
getting moved, looking for a place to restart their careers.
Yeah. Okay, I can see Darnold being in the same boat. Darnold's one of those guys who we just are trying to get away from Adam Gase. I can see Mitch Trubisky ending up on the move at the end of this season. Whether or not they get a quarterback or not, it's probably Nick Foles' team now. Nick Foles looked good in the game against Tampa. So it would make sense to offload Trubisky now, since he's still on his rookie deal. He's still relatively cheap in the grand scheme of it all. And you could probably get something of value for him. Maybe not much, because it's Mitch Trubisky, but you could get something of value for him. Maybe Nick Mullins too, or CJ Beathard could, if the Jimmy Garoppolo thing is still up in the air, or maybe we could even see Garoppolo get shipped off. I think one of those Niners quarterbacks could leave.
Yeah, and that kind of transitions. I know Trevor was going to talk about CJ Beathard in his backup of the week this week, just because he has a particular distaste for Jimmy G. But I wondered if you had thoughts on that. I know you said you were ready for some Jimmy G slander this cast. So
yeah, I think I'm by far the biggest Jimmy G hater on this podcast, out of the podcasting crew that we have here. But Trevor's going to pick CJ Beathard, not because he did well. Truthfully, not because he did that well, but because of the fact it was such piss poor play by Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo has not looked good this season. He's not looked comfortable. He's not looked confident. His porn star dating swagger is gone. He's back to just being your average, good-looking Joe who can't really play quarterback. Kind of like us. But
kind of like us.
But it starts to bring into the question of, is Kyle Shanahan really that committed to Jimmy Garoppolo? And I'm going to be honest, I don't think the answer is yes. I think if you're going to bench your, $150 million quarterback, $130 million quarterback, something like that. Regardless, whatever you're paying Jimmy Garoppolo, he has too big of a paycheck to really be sitting on the bench. Yes, you're getting your ass kicked by Miami, but if you're paying a quarterback that much, you should not be getting your ass kicked by Miami. I mean, you shouldn't, Yeah. And it's weird to see, like, the Niners' Super Bowl hangover is very apparent this year. So it's weird to see a coach just such as Shanahan, who we have talked about before on the show, of being one of the best strategists in the game, watching his teams look so unprepared out there.
Yeah, it was a mess to watch the 49ers offense, who I want to be fair, there are some injuries to that offense and the defense as well that have really crippled the 49ers this season, but it really was the defense that have been so surprised by so far this season, and especially against the now 2-3 Miami Dolphins. They let Ryan Fitzpatrick run and pass all over them. I mean, 350 yards from Ryan Fitzpatrick. Myles Gaskin ran all over them, and we had Preston Williams had over 100 yards against a 49ers defense who was probably the best in the league last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jimmy G looked bad. Beathard didn't look great either. But the defense absolutely let the team down this last game, and so there's probably got to be some things that got to change. Like you said, Super Bowl hangover is very apparent, but their schedule doesn't get easier. They play in the NFC West, and they're the fourth team in the West right now. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like going forward. But yeah, Jimmy G, it might be. I might not be surprised to see even Jimmy G go somewhere.
Can we see Jimmy G with
up in the air?
Going back to Bill Belichick and the Patriots? He wanted to trade Brady and not Garoppolo.
I mean, yeah, and Robert Kraft had some sort of love affair with Brady. I don't know what that was, but there's a story that I heard about Brady and Jimmy G, that Brady hated Jimmy G because he was scared of getting replaced. Because Brady has a fragile ego. It's how it goes. But but Brady has like TB12, which is like his athletic training type thing. And he had his own trainers that he and his friends would go to on the Patriots. And Belichick would send Garoppolo when he was on the Patriots to TB12 because they had great trainers and whatever. And there's this one story of Tom is in there, getting a massage or getting his groin iced down.
Massage? Just like Robert Kraft?
Hunter, I couldn't tell you. Like father, like son, maybe. I don't know. He kissed his son on the mouth. I couldn't tell you what he does. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, whatever he wants to do, but he's getting his groin iced down or something. I don't know. And he sees Jimmy G walking up to the facility, and he made everyone turn the lights off and lay down so Jimmy G wouldn't know that Tom and the boys were in there. So Belichick loves Jimmy. So I don't know.
What was not to love? Jimmy looks like the guy that you want your daughter to date.
I would give a handshake, a firm handshake to Jimmy G. I think he and I would be bros. I'd dap Jimmy G. I'd give him the old West Coast. You know what I'm saying? He would know. Yeah. He lives in San Francisco. Like I don't know. It's maybe that would be something for the Patriots. If this whole Cam Newton thing doesn't work out, if Cam Newton keeps getting diseases and shit.
The thing is, Cam is only on a 1-year deal, right?
Well, right.
And Belichick's known for wheeling and dealing. So at the end of the season, if you don't want to pay Cam, why not just pull in the trade for Jimmy G? He knows the offense. You've worked with him before. You know he's efficient. Why not?
I mean, if they have trade bait for Jimmy G, I say go for it. I mean, we'll see what it comes down to at the end of the season. Somehow the Patriots always find a way to go 10-6. So I'll see what it looks like come maybe January or February. But that would be quite the deal. I do want to hear though about the final backup of the week. We've already kind of mentioned in the cast so far, but from you, Hunter.
Yeah, we kind of went off topic there for a minute, but it's okay. To join the quarterback trend of the backups of the week, he's going to be joining. Who was the first one? Who was yours?
Shit, if I can't remember. Okay, I'll say Trevor's was just CJ Beathard.
Yes.
Right. And then we were talking about who? Who are we talking about, Hunter? Dog, I'm getting old as shit. I can't remember this thing anymore. You gotta back me up. I'm the dumbest one here. You talking about Alex Smith?
Alex Smith.
Comeback player of the year? Damn. I swear to God. We record the shit too damn late.
Dude, do we need to like cut this part out? I don't know. But anyway.
I'm not gonna edit it. But anyways, Alex Smith.
Joining Alex Smith and joining CJ Beathard in the Twitter vote for back of the week, we have the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton, TCU graduate. Good.
Andy Dalton came in after the tragic injury that we saw to Dak Prescott. And it's just one of those things where it's like, it's cool to see Dalton playing again, because Dalton's one of those guys that like you can't really hate him. And if you do, I'm just gonna call you a racist for hating gingers. But it's cool to see Andy Dalton play. I heard he's one of the nicest people like you'll meet in the league. He's just all around just a good guy, right? And it sucks that this is the way that we have to see him play. But he stepped in and he did his job for the Cowboys. He looked comfortable in the Mike McCarthy offense. He led a game-winning drive to win the game over the Giants, which he probably should have never been in that situation to have to lead the game-winning drive, because Giants suck and you should not have to have a game-winning drive against them. But he did. He did either way. Him and Michael Gallup were looking good in the game. Michael Gallup's fantasy value might be going up. Not quite sure, but we could see it happening. But it's cool. And I'm really excited to see what Andy Dalton could do with this Mike McCarthy offense. And see if Dallas if Dallas can win the NFC East, which it's still wide ass open.
Yeah, absolutely.
The winning team only has 2 wins.
Yeah, and barely 2 wins. I mean, the Eagles are do the Eagles have 2 wins right now too?
No, it's the Cowboys. Cowboys have 2 wins.
Wait, who did the Eagles lose to last week?
They lost to Pittsburgh.
Okay,
Chase Claypool, 3 touchdowns.
Okay. I do want to say
Chase Claypool.
I know we're talking about the Cowboys. But Chase Claypool, holy shit. I mean, what was he, my wide receiver 12? I wasn't prepared for that.
I thought I was ready to move him to a tight end, but I should have known. I should have known when Pittsburgh drafted him as a receiver.
Pittsburgh does this shit. They do this.
Pittsburgh will take a day 2 or day 3 receiver somewhere in the 3 to 5 range and turn him into the best fucking receiver in the league.
They do. It's so confusing. And with the jet sweep, with all of that, I mean, absolutely ridiculous. Had like 42 PPR fantasy points. I don't know. I hope
was he even on a roster?
No, I don't think he was on a single roster. He's like a wide receiver 4. I'm behind James Washington, Deontay, and Juju.
No, James Washington's wide receiver 4 now.
Okay. But still, either way,
if you need a receiver for fantasy, look at Chase Claypool.
Yeah, it might be a shot in the dark there. We're getting off topic, but okay, anyway, either way, the NFC East, still wide ass open. Andy Dalton, was on kind of a crippled Bengals team, for the majority of his career. So, like you said, hard to see him have to play this way with Dak going down, gruesome injury. But maybe he could lead the Cowboys to a 7-9 playoff run or something like that. Because it, like you said, still completely wide open in the NFC East. I wouldn't bet on the Giants getting anywhere, but otherwise, those other 3 teams really could have a shot at the playoffs this year. Depending on how the rest of the season shakes out. We're getting to just about the end of our podcast this week. It's been an all over the place one. We've been in our minds, out of our minds. I can't remember shit anymore. I think I'm honestly getting too old for it. But if you have any closing words, I'd love to hear them.
Fire Adam Gase could be our new thing, because apparently that works. I don't.
Yep.
I'll fire Adam Gase. Follow us on Twitter. Check out the Backups Cast. Follow us individually on Twitter. We're gonna be tweeting out the Backups of the Week poll, so y'all can vote in that. But yeah, it's quarterback week here and coaches week here. So.
Yup. Like you said, follow us on Twitter at the Backups Cast. Our individual Twitters are in the bio. You can follow us. Hunter and I actually recently created just NFL Twitter, so you don't have to see all the weird shit I tweet sometimes, which is probably good for you. It's probably better that way. But you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, like everything else. It's the Backups Cast. I post all of the videos of this because we record these on Skype. I post all the videos on our YouTube so you can see our beautiful faces each and every week. Hunter with his headband this week looking mad cute, repping a little South Carolina swag. We're also going to be putting out scouting reports very soon with maybe a little help from ISN Podcast Network, ISN Sports Network, and Brian Lamb. So be on the lookout for that. So thank you for listening. Keep watching football and fire Adam Gase.